All right, colored pens up. Today's lesson is multi-step equations. To be able to be successful, you have to be an expert at one-step equations and simplifying expressions. So let's see how we're doing. Number one, what did we get? We'll start with Sharik, Anissa, and then Dayanara. What'd you get?
X equals -4 summers.
Okay.
X equals -4%.
So you two agree. What do you think, Dayanara?
-6.
-6. So we do have a disagreement, and as I walked around, I noticed a lot of different answers. Very good. Any other answers, Alicia?
Well, I got
-4 over 7. The correct answer is -4/7. Number 2, what did we get? We'll start with Brian, then Catalina, and then Kamoy.
Y equals 10.
Okay?
I got -10.
Okay, so we have a bit of a disagreement. Kamoy? Number 2? Okay. Brandon, what'd you get? The correct answer is 10. Number 3. Not solving an equation, it's simplifying. What is the expression that you get as a result? What is the expression? Got 2 confident people. Really? Just 2? 4? 5 confident people? 6 confident people. Ania, Sebastian, and then Sharik. Okay?
2x minus 2.
Okay?
-2x plus 1.
So we have 3 different answers. Anyone want to chime in with one of those or give a no answer? Kayla and then Brian? Okay?
-2x plus 2.
Okay, so we got a lot of different answers. The correct answer is -2x plus 2. So we have a lot to work out because to be successful today, you have to know all of this. So there were 3 questions, you marked your answers, you wrote down the correct answer. Now using your colored pen, you need to learn from your mistakes. So let me back up. I'm going to actually start with number 3. Could someone help us, or several people help us? What do we see an example of in number 3? Something should jump out at you. Aliana? Very good. What is the example of distributive property in number 3? Like someone read it to me. Shelby? Very good. This is the distributive property right there. That must be taken care of first. If you missed that it was -2, that might have been your mistake. But let's assume that you did catch that, and let's work from here. So for the moment, we're going to ignore the 6x. We'll use that in the second step. And we're going to distribute here and here. Let's do the first arrow. What do we get when we do -2 times 4x? Catalina?
-8x.
Very good. We get a -8x. What do we get when we do -2 times -1? -2 times -1. Kayla?
2.
+2. Give me a thumbs up if that's the second step you had. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 people. Good. So where's my brave students? Where'd you go wrong? Zabari, where'd you go wrong?
Instead, I got multiplication mixed up with subtraction. I can multiply, but I was multiplying like I was subtracting.
So what did you end up with?
6x plus -2x plus 2.
Okay. So you actually added these two together?
No. I don't know.
Okay. I'm not sure how you got the -2. Ania, then Jada, and then back over here.
I combined like terms instead of just doing distributive property.
So what did you combine? The 6x and the 4x? Okay. Now, if you look back at the notes we did, and I'm glad you shared that, that's really important. You must distribute first. Then you do like terms afterwards, okay? So thank you. Jada?
I did the same.
You combine like terms first? Okay. Catalina?
I didn't know whether to put 6x plus, so I did 6x times.
6x times
Yeah.
this?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, if you understand that this is really plus and negative, that's where that plus sign comes from. Okay? So maybe you're getting confused between this idea. Last time I was talking to you about how my brain automatically does that. And some of you do that as well. But that means that there's a plus sign in between here. You have to know that there's a plus sign there. Okay? So we figured out some of our mistakes. There were 5 people or 6 people who had this line. What's the next step? What do you have to do finally to simplify it all the way? Sebastian? You said that perfectly. Perfect. What are the like terms? Sebastian?
6x and -8x.
6x, negative 8x. When you combine those, you get negative 2x. Comments or questions on number 3? Okay, let's go to number 1. How do you solve that? Because there was a bunch of people who had the right answer, but there was also a bunch of us that did not. Anissa?
You have to do flip-flop with the fraction, -2/3, and multiply it by -2/3.
Okay, now when you say flip-flop, what's that fancy word that describes what you're talking about? Okay, Alyssa?
The reciprocal?
Yeah, is that what you mean? You did the reciprocal, and then you multiplied both sides by it. So you multiply by -3/2, and then you multiply this side by -3/2. This cancels out. That's what we want. So you just have to know how to do that. To be quite honest, I'm not going to sit here and talk about how to multiply 2 fractions together because for you guys, this is like 4th or 5th grade work. You guys are you're in high school honors class. High school honors students have no issue whatsoever with this. As I said to you before, if you do have an issue with it, that doesn't make you a bad person, but it has to be fixed. Okay? Come on.
For like the origin stuff, I thought that because the variable was next to the fraction, I thought that you had to divide. So I divided.
So you divided both sides by whatever fraction was there? Okay, well that should still get you the same answer. Multiplying by a reciprocal and dividing by the actual fraction is actually the same thing. Okay? You'll find out if you got the right answers. If you got all the right answers, then it doesn't really matter how you did it, right? If you got all the wrong answers, then we have an issue. Okay? Good. Number 2, there's one thing that I want to talk about. We have to do the same method that Anissa taught us, but how did you deal with this? That's ugly. How do you deal with it? Anne?
I made it into like the
Go ahead.
A mixed fraction.
Actually, that's a mixed number. You turned it into an improper fraction.
Yeah.
And so what improper fraction did you turn it into?
I put 15/2.
Yeah, so if you write, well, negative 15/2. Negative 15/2, that makes your life a lot easier. So you have to know to do that. Very good. Any comments or questions? Comments or questions on anything? Okay. Today we'll be studying the idea of how to solve a multi-step equation. So today we're going to be taking everything you've learned up until this point and putting it all together. If I could direct your attention to the back of the room, to my bulletin board in the back for a moment. So now we are really starting to get into the thick of algebra. We took care of one-step equations. Today, we are going to do this and this, all wrapped into one. This is 3.2, this is 3.3. You guys are high-level honors students. I've wrapped it all into one. Because to be able to do this, you need to know this, and to do this, you need to know this. Okay? So I've wrapped up a lot into this one lesson, but you're going to see that once you understand what's happening, it's really just a matter of understanding the rules. And you already learned the rules. It's just a matter of putting it all together. So first, what is our goal? Our goal when solving an equation really is to get the variable isolated. We want the variable by itself. So I've drawn a little example here. Our goal is to get this, the variable by itself. That means that there's no constants with it, and there's just one of them, right? It's not x plus x, it's just one x. That's it. That's our goal. And so we have to learn how to change this into this. You already learned how to do that. We also had to learn how to turn this into this. You already learned how to do that. Now we're just going to build on that. Okay? Are there any questions so far? Good. So now begins the building process. When you have a multi-step equation, we simplify. This is the key to understanding. We simplify each side so that the equation ends up in one of these forms. A, B, and C represent numbers. We either want it to be ax plus b equals c, or c equals ax plus b. It's really the same thing, just flipped around. And you can flip that around based on the symmetry property of equality. So you see I have here on my wall of properties, 3x minus 7 equals y is the same thing as y equals 3x minus 7. That's called the symmetric property of equality. Okay? Having an equation in this form and understanding what to do is key. Here is the basic idea. It only takes 2 steps from this point forward. A week from now, you're going to be able to look at an equation of this form, and you will be so fast at solving it, you're going to shock yourself. You're going to become such a high-level master of equations, 2-step equations like this, that you're going to be like, Mr. Gow, this is a joke. I can do this in my sleep now. That's the idea. How do we get to that high level of understanding? By being able to do this. Okay? So now let me change what I'm hiding. And I want to look at this part first. We always simplify, then solve. So we have to simplify everything so that it looks like this. Here's the order that you simplify things. Keep, change if you need to. A lot of us don't even need to do it anymore, so you could skip that if you don't need to do it. You know, we've had some conversations about how your mind should just take the subtraction sign and move it over. So if your mind is ready for that, don't even do step 1. But then the next 2 are really important, and Ania helped us understand why. You must do distributive property before you combine like terms. Once you've done all of this, the equation should look like this. Now we're ready to solve. Here's how you solve. When you're solving, don't do keep, change. You leave subtraction as subtraction. You always take care of the subtraction or the addition first, then you take care of the division or multiplication. You'll understand what I mean when we do it. I cannot overemphasize this. Simplify, then solve. Simplify, then solve. What do you want to do?
Simplify, then solve.
Simplify, then solve. Okay? So we are actually not going to do a huge number of examples together. You're going to have to build your understanding from just a few examples. And of course, I will support you as you work through them. Okay? Questions so far? So let's just start putting it into practice. We're going to jump right in. We're going to start out with a two-step equation. How do I know it's a two-step equation? Well, if I look at it carefully, I can see that it is in the form ax plus b equals c. Can someone tell me what is a? What's a? Alyssa? 1/2. What's b? Be careful. Aliana?
7. Negative.
Very good. Very important distinction. B, since I have this plus sign here, B must be -7. And then what's C? Maria? -10. So you can tell that this is in the correct form. So now you are going to learn how to be a Jedi Master at solving two-step equations. You always start with the addition or subtraction part first. So your eyes and your mind should immediately be looking right there. That's where we start. Now, of course, we're going to draw our T to stay organized. So I'm going to draw a T. But I'm going to start with the -7. And just for this first time, if this was the equation, what would I do? What would I do to solve it? Ania? Add 7. Very good. That was really important. Add 7 to both sides. So that is what we do. We are going to add 7 to both sides. And then we are going to work down. I'm going to draw my little elementary school squiggly line. And now we work down. This cancels out. And now I do -10 plus 7. What do I get? -10 plus 7, Kamoy? -3. So I end up with x equals -3. But that wasn't the equation. I whited out part of it. There was this 1/2 here. So now the equation is really 1/2 x equals -3. Kamoy and Jada had made a mistake that they've learned from, so we're going to see if they're really learning. So Jada, how do I solve an equation where the coefficient is a fraction?
You switch the denominator and the top number.
Okay? And what do we call that when you do that? There's a fancy word for it. Anissa knows now. Very good. And then Anissa, she said we flip it, but then what do we do with that? Very good. And Anissa helped us with that earlier during the warm-up. So now we multiply both sides by the reciprocal. And then work our way down. This cancels out, and I'm left with x equals, and now I just have to multiply. -3 times 2 is -6. Does anyone have any questions on how we did this so far? Now I want to do a mental check. Before I pat myself on the back and congratulate myself for being so brilliant, I'm going to do a mental check. I'm going to take the -6 and I'm going to put it right here in place of the x. and I'm going to say to myself, 1/2 of -6 is -3. -3 minus 7, does that equal -10?
Yes.
Yes, it does. So I've done a mental check, and now I can confidently circle my answer and say I'm fantastic. Does anyone have any questions on how we did that? Questions, comments, concerns? Now, let's build on it. That's a two-step equation. Example 2. So, again, we are trying to achieve this. Is example 2 already in that form? And? No. So we have to get it into this form so that we can then solve. So Sharik, I had made you say something that I had been repeating over and over again. What was the thing that I told you to repeat?
Simplify, then solve.
Very good. So we have to simplify, then solve. See, it would be great, it would be wonderful if that was the equation. We now know how to do that, right? We just did an example of that, but it's not. So now we have to figure out, okay, well, how do we deal with it? We simplify. So what should I do? Shelby? Very good. I love the way she said that. Combine like terms. So now, if I called on Sebastian, he would tell me that the like terms were 8z and -5z. So now combine them. What do we get? What do we get? Go ahead, Sebastian.
3z.
Very good. And so now we're going to rewrite the equation. Notice that I did not draw my t yet. I didn't need to because right now I'm just simplifying, and now I've got Now I've got 3z plus 16 equals -29. Now it's in the right form. Now I can solve. Now I can solve. Does anyone have any questions on how we did that? Any questions? So now we'll draw our t. What should I look at first? Where should my eyes be focused, Brian?
16.
Yeah, on the positive 16. And so, Brian, what should I do to start solving?
Subtract 16.
Someone want to finish this statement?
Both sides.
Ah, okay. Subtract 16 from both sides. Subtract 16. Sorry that my pen is messing up a little bit. Subtract 16 from both sides. Elementary school line, that cancels, and now I'm left with 3z equals what? 3z equals what, Maria?
-45.
Ah, she did not mess up. Very good. -45. How do I solve an equation of this form? Let me see if I can help you focus. You did some questions like this in your homework. How do I solve that? Zabari?
Divide both sides by 3.
Say it a little bit louder.
Divide both sides by 3.
I love the way he said that. He said it perfectly. Divide both sides by 3. Divide both sides by 3. 5 words. So now, this cancels out. I get z isolated. And now I just have to do -45 divided by 3. What do we get? What do we get? Alyssa?
-15.
-15. Before I pat myself on the back, I'm going to do a mental check. So I'm going to put the -15 here and the -15 here. It's a little bit harder, but I can still do it. So 8 times 10 would be 80. 8 times 5 is 40, so I know that's a -120. and then that's going to be 50, 75, but then it's going to turn positive. So I can do that mentally, and I do know that it does work out. If I need to, I can use a calculator to help myself. But you need to check. Does anyone have any questions on how we did that?
When you put the negative 16 under the negative 29, how did you get 45? I thought we were supposed to subtract it.
You're adding down. So it's negative 29 plus negative 16. Or you can say, you're right, if it's subtracting, you can say negative 29 minus 16. Either way, it still comes out the same. How do you do? Do you like to do keep, change, or do you just move the negative over?
No, I'm not sure that how to know when you do subtraction or addition.
Well, I shouldn't have written it the way I did first. This is what it is. It's negative 29 minus 16. So I apologize. I shouldn't have done it the first way. Negative 29 minus 16. But now we do keep, change. Negative 29 plus negative 16. Okay? You see it now? Okay.
When you plug in the negative 15 in each z, could you just simplify 8z minus 5z before you plug in
You could.
negative 15?
So we could plug it in this step right here. We could plug it in right there. The negative 15. Try it there. That should work. Good. It's a good thought. Other questions, comments? Good. Let's see how you do on your own. Checkpoint number 1. I gave you a bit of a tricky one. So you got 2 minutes on the clock. You check your answer, you'll know if you get it right or not. All right, we got 3 confident people, 4 confident people right away, 5. We'll start with Eric, Ania, Brian, Alyssa, and then we'll come over here. What'd you get?
Negative 6.
Okay.
I think we
Okay. Go ahead, you go. So we got a massive disagreement.
X equals -6.
So that's what Eric said. So you agree there, but we have a massive disagreement. Sharif?
X equals -6.
We have more support for -6 as a possible answer. I've got some people hoping that I don't call on them because they didn't finish or they're not sure what to do. What'd you get, Zabari?
I like X squared equals -6.
X squared equals -6? The correct answer is X equals -6. Anyone who got an X squared is still not understanding the difference between adding and multiplying. We are not multiplying, we are adding. So let me change the question and see if it changes your understanding. What if I wrote it like this? Is that easier to understand? What if I wrote it like this? Is that easier to understand?
Yes.
So then the question is actually not really that hard. The difficulty was understanding what this is. Can someone say what 3/2 is in a nice, friendly, human way? What is it, Shelby? It's 1.5. If you're driving on the Sawgrass Expressway with your family and you're getting close to Commercial Boulevard because you're coming to school and you see one of those big, huge signs that tells you how far away you are, would the sign ever say you are 3/2 of a mile away? No, but it would say you're 1.5 miles away, right?
Yes.
Or if you drive down 95 or the Turnpike or any road where they have these signs. They don't use improper fractions because they're not very human. They're not very friendly. But we do use them a lot because they're very mathematical and they're very scientific. But if you can learn how to change an unfriendly number into something that makes more sense, then you will have a lot greater success. So let's stick with the 1.5x plus 1x equals -15. What is the first thing you need to do to try and solve this? So I got some hesitant hands and got some more confident ones. Ania? Simplify. Very good. In this case, what does that mean? What do we have to do? Very good. See, some of you are sitting there like, I don't know what to do, but what if this was the question? 2x plus 3x equals 20. Would you know what to do there? Yeah, it's 2x plus 3x. What's 2x plus 3x? Someone raise their hand and tell us. 2x plus 3x. What do you get? Kayla? 5x. Right? Because you add the 2 and the 3. So do the same thing. It's 1.5 plus 1. What's the big deal? 1.5 plus 1. Could someone tell us what that comes out to? 1.5 plus 1? Catalina? 2.5. So in actuality, this is really what we have here. So, yeah, it was a little bit tricky, but it's tricky for a reason that you guys have to get past, which is you didn't know what to do with 3/2, but you should. Okay? So does anyone have any questions? So again, the answer was -6. X equals -6. Any questions? So now we're going to build on what we've done so far and make it a little more complex. I must admit, I was a little disappointed that question number 3 on the warm-up, we had such a low level of success. Should have had a much higher level of success with number 3 on the warm-up. And the reason is because we need that skill to do this question. So this looks quite a bit more complex than the ones we've done. We want it to look like this. Right now, it does not. We have to change it so that it looks like this. So, Sharik, to change it, we have to do what?
Simplify, then solve.
So we have to simplify. So watch what I can do to help you focus. If I took this off for a moment, look at that, and now let me rewind to the warm-up. Does that not look almost exactly like question number 3? It does. And my warm-ups are always reviews of concepts you already learned. So you were supposed to already know how to do this. Even though we've shown that we did struggle with it, you're supposed to know how to deal with that. So now I'm asking you to apply that idea to solve an equation. So what's the order of things that we have to do? What is the order? What has to be simplified first? What has to be simplified first? Zabari? You must do distributive property first. And so here it is. That's the distributive property. That must be simplified first. So that's where we begin. So, negative 5 times k, negative 5 times 6. Then we're going to rewrite the whole thing. 9k is not being used. Negative 5 times k, could someone raise their hand and tell us what does that become? Kamoy?
Negative 5k.
Negative 5k. Negative 5 times 6, what does that become? Stephanie?
Negative 30.
Negative 30, very good. Equals negative 10. Now, this looks just like this question, does it not? It looks exactly like this. So we already know what to do from here. What is the next step? Someone put it into words for us. Now we're getting some more hands up. Now we're getting some more confidence. Aliana?
Combine like terms.
Said it beautifully. Combine like terms. So now we have the 9k and the negative 5k. Sebastian's an expert, so let's check with him. 9k minus 5k, what do we get? Very good. Don't worry, you're an expert. I trust you. So now we get 4k minus 30 equals negative 10. Have we achieved our goal of getting it to look like what I wrote in orange? Yeah, now it looks like a two-step equation. Catalina, you had a question or comment? Go ahead.
No, I want to answer the next step.
Okay, so now I'm going to draw my T, and Catalina, where should my eyes be focused at this point?
Negative 30.
Yeah, minus 30, and so what are we going to do?
We're going to add 30 to both sides.
Said that perfectly. Add 30 to both sides. This will cancel, and I'm left with 4k equals what? Alyssa? 20. Give me a thumbs up if you can solve the rest of this mentally without doing anything. I don't know the thumbs up system yet. Good. Dianara, what's k equal to?
5.
5. K equals 5. Now let's do a mental check. Let's follow Sharik's advice. Let's just plug it into right here, see if it works. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 minus 30 does come out to negative 10, so I know that I got the correct solution. Any questions about that? Good. Checkpoint number 2. Let's see how you do on your own with this one. Got 3 minutes. I gave you a bit of a challenging one. everything else right. You did all the hard stuff. Very good. Okay. What do we get? Start with Maria, Eric, Brandon, Shelby. Maria, what do you get?
8. X equals 8.
Okay. Brandon was there? Brandon?
X equals 8. X equals
Got 4 people who think it's 8. That's good because the answer is 8. X equals 8. It was definitely a bit of a doozy of a question. I'm very impressed though. Almost everybody was able to figure out the simplifying part. I was very impressed. Are there comments or questions on checkpoint number 2? Okay, so let's start. What did you do first, Kamoy? Very good, you said that beautifully. So here it is. What was the result when you did the distributive property?
I got -6 minus 2x.
That's the problem right there. Could someone tell her what the mistake was? Shelby?
It was -2 and -x.
Plus 2x. -2 times -x is positive 2x. And then you have -4 plus 3x equals 30. So this was the first time where you had to combine like terms, but there was 2 sets of like terms. You got 2x and 3x is 5x, and then -6 and -4 is -10 equals 30. From there, could someone tell us how many steps it will take to solve? How many steps, Alyssa? 2. So you should be able to recognize when there's 2 steps. Very good. Found your mistake? Anyone else have questions? Okay, I do have one more example, but I'm actually going to skip it for now, and I'm going to teach you how to do it during the classwork. So everyone, draw a line across your paper. Classwork. On page 21, you're going to do 4 questions. Number 13, 7, 4, and 1. And on page 23, you're going to do 4 questions, 16, 9, 8, and 7. It's a total of 8 questions. Go ahead and get started. All right, let's see how we're doing. Colored pens up. Got 8 questions. We're looking for, maybe 75% or better, but doesn't mean you're a bad person if you do worse than that. It's not a big deal. We're still learning. So let's start with the first page. Number 13, A was 2. Number 7, P is 30. Number 4, C is 2. And number 1, N is 7. My expectation is that over the next couple of days, you are incredibly comfortable with questions, solving equations like this. That's my expectation. We're talking master level, okay? The rest is a little more challenging, and it might take you a little bit longer. Number 16, you had to understand what was the situation. So the perimeter, x comes out to 5. You were given a perimeter of that shape. Number 9, x is 36. Number 8, a is 3. And number 7, a is 2. I now have 7, 8, and 9 from this page. 3 of your classmates were kind enough to demonstrate how to do it. Here's number 7, here's number 8, and here's number 9. So if you'd like to check your own work, you can look up there. If you need to get up and come closer, or I can hand it to you so you can look over it. But I am more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. All right, before you check your work, though, let's get a score for now. So there were 8 questions. 6 out of 8 would be a great start, and then we'll look for improvement over the next couple of days. Are there questions on any of these? Questions? Alyssa and then Jada. Number 16. Jada? 16. Yeah, that's what I expected. So let's take a look at number 16. If you have to find x, you have to find the value of this, and you've got this shape. How could we do that? I don't even know where to begin. But there's a clue somewhere. What was the clue that you needed to pick up on? Just a couple of people, that's fine. Shelby? What was the clue? Or what did you get from the information? How did you know that you were going to have to do that? Yeah. This word right here tells you what to do. You have to add up all the sides to get that number. So what we end up doing is, this is now the total, right? I always tell you to find the total first. That's the total. To get that total, we have to add up all the sides. So it's x plus 3 plus 2x equals 23. Now solve. X, and 2x is 4x plus 3 equals 23. X equals 5. Jada, Alyssa, follow-up questions or comments? Does it make sense? So the whole key is looking at this piece of information right here, and that tells you what to do. Okay? Comments or questions on that? Go ahead, Kamoy. 1x, 2x. 1 plus 1 plus 2 becomes 4x. I combine like terms. Okay? Good question. Any other questions? Brandon? Oh, I thought you had a question. Any other questions? Good, we're doing well. Draw a line across your paper. You're going to do page 146, 12 through 22 even, and 28 to 38 even. You're going to do page 154, 10 through 34 even. That's a total of 25 questions. You must read the next section, page 158 to 160. And you will have a quiz next Wednesday, a week from today. And that will be lessons 3.1 to 3.3.